Hi guys, it's Amy and you have found Amy Loves Crochet. Thank you so much for your time. I always appreciate when you click on my videos. This week's video is one that I contemplated whether I was going to record it for later use or record it and share it today because it is inspired by K&K Crochet. So they're doing something, they announced in a video that they're going to be doing some sock projects in the future, and it inspired me to start working on some socks now. I didn't want to kind of jump in front of their train or whatever, but you know, I needed something to work on right now, so I decided to go ahead and use their idea and kind of run with it. So here are a couple of the ones that I came up with. I wanted to use this yarn. When I purchased this yarn and tried it for the first time, I reported back to you guys that I was not in love with this yarn at all, and I frogged out the project that I had. So I was really happy to be able to use this cake now, and this is all I've got left. I guess I used my 4.5 millimeter hook. This yarn is called Hotcakes by Plymouth Yarns, and it is a mix here of 75% acrylic and 25% wool, and recommends an H hook. Now the color is only listed as color number 16. So it's just really some nice greens and beiges and creams and browns. And so I kind of thought that, you know, either of these projects maybe could go either way for a, you know, for a man or a woman. But the first one that I worked up is one that I have seen, I'm sure you all have seen this sock video before, this tutorial by Brunaticality. I'm going to chop up her name, I'm sorry, I'm not even going to say it. But this is the cute little video here. You know, I've got larger feet, so when I do a sock or a slipper or something, they always look ginormous compared to a cute little, you know, tutorial that we watch. So I really like the stripes that she put into her. She, you know, gave it some really good creative colors. But this was, I'm just going to work through the cake. Whatever the color changing was going to happen. I was not going to color control it all. And obviously, you know that that's going to give you two different projects, two different looking feet, you know. So here are mine. You know, you start at the, I think you start at the heel. And you work in a strip all the way down, and you do the back and then come around to the top. And then you do the band, and then you do all the sewing together. So working the strip, you know, the project itself went rather quickly. It was a matter of pinning and sewing, and that took me a little bit longer, and sewing in all my ends and stuff. So if you were going to color control, these could turn out really cute. But I kind of like the different look that they have from each other, you know, just played out the yarn the way that it came out. And their colors, the greens, there's actually two different greens. This one's kind of like a grayish, bluish green, and then this one's much more green. So, I don't know. It was fun to work on this this sock project because I had saved, not saved the video, but when I played the video, you could see I had partially watched it already. So I don't know if I took notes on it somewhere. I mean, I didn't watch the full video, and I don't think I started it and then frogged it. So I don't think that I made them before, but I'm glad I made them now. It was something kind of on the radar. So thanks, KK and Kristen, for your kind of inspiration on these. The next one that I made was from oops, I shouldn't put stuff on that table. Miarti. And she uses actually 2 strands of DK, but I decided to go ahead and try it with this same yarn. And I used a 5.5 millimeter hook for this one, just to kind of, I don't know, make up for the difference that she was using two yarns held together. Because when I was making these, you know, I was doing all the sewing and thinking, oh, this is not taking so long, but if you don't like sewing stuff together, and you know that there are options where they are a no-sew item, then you know, I'm kind of happy to work on a no-sew item, right? And so I know that there are tons and tons and tons of videos out there where you're shown like a square. Basically, you crochet a square and then sew edges together somehow to make the slipper on your foot, or the sock, whatever. You know, the sock or the slipper, they both kind of worked out, you know, over flowing back and forth with each other. You see a lot of videos that whatever this thing you're putting on your foot is called a bunch of different things. So anyway, so this is one that I tried, and I kind of mismeasured because I wasn't considering. Sometimes when I look at a project, I don't read it all the way through first. And who else is guilty of that? And so I got to making the chain that I, knew was going to fit my foot. And you still, and so you make the square, like I was saying, but then, so I made that the full length of my foot, but you still do a toe section. So these look really, really big. I didn't put these on my feet yet at all, I think. I'll do that for a picture. But, so here's these two. And again, they look different from each other, but that's just what I had left. So the way you work these is in, like I say, like in a rectangle or a square, and then you do this section that's going to run across the top of your foot, and then you fold that to the the edge, and then bring the rest around, the back side around to pin it up there. It's one of those videos that you like kind of click through because you got the gist of it, if you do. So, and then a little single crochet around the inside. So these were really easy to make. Again, with the sewing of the edges, if you needed to consider, like in the back, she was using, if you're using all one color, or in her case, she was using two strands held together. So when you sew it up, when she was sewing up the back edge, it just looked the same, like the stitches are you don't see them. But here, because I was just using wherever the color may flow, you definitely see the seam. So that was kind of, I mean, I don't care. They're just slippers. You're just going to wear them walking around the house, right? But if you do care, and then on the tip of this one, I had just a bit of green. So you do some two togethers, as you go to make the hole smaller. And then mine still wasn't small enough. So I just did that one where you weave in and out around and then cinch it, and it pulls the toe closed, which is maybe why it's a little bit bunchy and stuff at the tip, but whatever. Otherwise, I thought if I left them squared out like this, I thought that was kind of a funny look. So those were my two completed socks, two sets of socks out of this yarn. So I thought that was really good. And again, I'll list these patterns down below in case you are interested in looking at working on them. Another one I worked on, I'm not going to say what the pattern or the tutorial, who does the tutorial, because I frogged this out. I'm not happy with the pattern, and so I don't want to say bad things about the person or the pattern. I don't want it to come out like that. So this just wasn't for me. What I wanted to use was that natural marl yarn. You guys have seen this before in my little KK body bag I made with my little bumblebee on it. And so this yarn is made up of 69% polyester, 22% acrylic, and 9% wool. So there's a bit of a halo fuzz on it that makes frogging a nightmare. I thought I was going to do okay. So the pattern, what I didn't like about the pattern is that you work some slip stitches, which isn't a problem, but then you have to go a back loop only in the slip stitches. And that was like murder. That was hard. And I wasn't liking how it was turning out. And there was a count, like I had as many as she said, and then I did what she said, and I didn't end up with the same, and I recounted it. And so I thought I was just going to flub my way through it. So I got this far to it, and I'm not sure. The other thing is that the whole project was back loop only. That's really the main part. Let me go to that. The main part is that the whole project was back loop only. And number one, back loop only is kind of slow and tedious and a pain in my patootie. I don't like it if I don't need to do it. So I thought that I was going to not do that through the whole pattern, but then sometimes maybe you do need it. Like I didn't know what the reasoning for that was, if it was just for design or if it was for reasons. So I started to get like, okay, I got to do the back loop only thing. So I started doing it, and I did both feet at the same time. If you know me, like I'll get finished with one sock and be like, meh, I'm done. So I have to work both of them up at the same time to finish at the same time. Same thing with gloves. So Here's as far as I got, and I was working both sides of the skein so that I could have both socks going at the same time, or slippers, whatever. And I just got to a point where I was like, you know what? I am not loving this, and I do not want to keep going with it. And then I tried to frog out, and it just gets stuck, and you jiggle with it, and you loosen that part of it, and then you got this big chunk of green, and so it's a mess. I'm gonna have to cut these off because I just don't care enough about it. This yarn came to me in a lot of yarn that I purchased off of eBay, so it wasn't even my intention, and I entertained the idea of using it. I used it successfully once, and then here was another entertainment of using it, and I'm not going to do it. So I'll keep this one, as it is, just so that, if the feeling for the yarn ever comes back, I've got that one. But this one, I'm just going to cut off what I've done and have, that much less yarn on here. Maybe I will one day want to use this again. I mean, and you can't tell when you frogged it, you can't tell really. Like, here's what happens is that green just bunches up right there, and that's what gets stuck together right here. So if you have it, let me know what you used it with successfully. This was not a success for me whatsoever. So that was, you learn through trial and tribulations. That's what I said that my channel was going to be about, that you guys can learn through my mistakes and so forth. Okay, so here was the last pair of socks that I made for this, that I've got ready to share with you for this video. I thought I'd go ahead and work through my just yarn. I wanted to work through the rest of what I had. And just this mint is like forever in my way. I can't get rid of it. So what I did was I picked up, when I've worked my willow square blankets, you guys have seen this before, there's a dark blue, I think it's called denim, and so I had one full skein of that had not yet been touched, and all I've got is this tiny little bit. What I did was I held it together with another strand, and the video that I watched, she was holding bulky yarn. So we'll just have to see how it turns out in me using 2 worsted weights. And she used, there's not really a pattern to it. There's a toe count that you start, and then you just go. So these are my socks, and it's kind of just like a tube sock. I don't know if you've ever been to the hospital for a procedure, but the socks that they gave you there don't have a heel. They are just a straight tube, So I thought, these could work in that regard. Now, I ran out of blue. I was working them up together, again, one out of each end so that I could be even with whatever I was going to do. So I started with the lilac color, that's kind of purple. And then there's my sea glass, my mint, that's driving me crazy. And then I think this kind of orange was called a coral. And then I went back to the pink, and then just a couple rows of the blue, of the green here. I think I'm one short. I was doing 5 rows of each color, and I just got 4 rows up at the top. But it just kind of sits like that on my foot. It's just barely an ankle sock. So I think that if a child wore it, it would be much more going up the leg than it is for me. But that was fun. It was very, very easy. Obviously, there's no other sewing or putting together. There's no shape to it. It's just a tube sock. So, but, kept me busy. This week has been, it's a blur. You guys, I told you all about my illnesses all through since the first of the year. But this was my husband's turn to be sick this week, and he was really, really sick. And we had my grandkids extra, and Memorial Day was in there. So, I couldn't take any paid time off for sick time or anything to deal with any of my issues that I had this week. So I had to work a full day on Friday, and I don't normally work Fridays at all, and I normally work half days. So for me to work a full day on Friday was just kind of, I don't even know, like, what's today? What's the date? Yep, so just a little couple of projects to keep me going. You want to sit down, you want to be in your crochet mode, but there was so much else going on. There's no way I could have been following like a pattern So I do still have two things. I'm going to keep talking about them so I motivate myself to work on them. I've got two things that I'm working on that I don't love, but I'm sure that when I get to them being finished, I will love them. Who knows? So yeah, that's what I got going on this week. Let me know down in the comments what you've been working on, and maybe give me some ideas and inspiration of what I can pick up next that isn't too difficult. All right, guys, I hope everybody's doing well. Have a wonderfully blessed day, and I hope you'll come back and see me again. Thank you. Bye-bye.